Hello everyone! Today we are in the rocks and minerals world that I created for the Royal Ontario Museum because today I want to talk about display cases. I have this adorable little trilobite and I want to show it off. There are two versions of the display case that I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you a simpler version and then the more complicated version. Now the simpler version has to be built against a wall. So the first thing you're going to do is figure out where the wall is and what it's made out of. Now when you are making this wall, you want to make sure that whatever block you're making the wall out of, that it has a stair block. So let's say we would like our walls to be pink. That's really nice. And we will get the accompanying pink cherry wood block so that we can start to put our wall together. So I'm just going to build it here. And then let's say we want our display case to go here. So let's choose the material our display case is going to be made out of. Now I like quartz. And I like the smooth quartz. That looks a lot like the things that we have to display at the museum. Now you could do 1 or 2, it really doesn't matter. Let's do 2. Let's show off the trilobite and we'll show off another cool fossil that we have as well. So the next thing that you're going to do is on the wall side of your display case. So here's the rest of my room. Here's where the wall is. I'm going to cut into the floor and I need a slab. What material your slab is made out of doesn't really matter. We can make this one out of quartz. We're not really going to see it. So let's put that down there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to get some armor stands. And let's get number 1 and number 2. Now you'll see the way that I put them down, I was facing that wall. The armor stand's right hand has to be touching the block that is going to be the display case. And if you're not sure what its right hand is, where forward and back is, you can always try giving it the thing that's going to show off. So that's the right hand, the one that is holding the object. And let's give this one an ammonite. So we have our 2 aquatic fossils there. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to get a couple of glass blocks. So I've got some glass in my inventory and we are just going to put it up there. And then we're going to position our armor stand so that they are showing off what they're holding in a nice way. So I'm holding down shift when I am clicking on the armor stand. That's really important. You have to crouch because if you don't, it's just going to swap out whatever your armor stand is holding. So there we have our trilobite. I really like this pose where the armor stand is kind of holding its arm out straight. I find it centers it the most. Other people I know like the one that is doing a little kicky kick that way. But I find that's not quite centered in the case. I like it, again, looking kind of like that, but you can do whatever kind of feels right to you. So now our armor stands are in place. Now we want to hide them so that we don't see them. 1 block away from where your armor stands are, you're going to put some pistons and we're going to put them 2 high. And we are going to put a couple of blocks back there so that we can power them both at the same time. So I'm going to put my wall blocks on there and then let's flip these levers. And you can see when there's a solid block underneath, the armor stand's actually in shadow, so the thing that it's holding is shadowed as well. So let's try that again. That's why I said we want a block that has stairs. So we're going to put a stair that has the straight edge facing the piston. This can be a little bit tricky to do. You might need to break a little bit of a hole in your wall in order to get there, but there we go. Okay, let's put our wall back. So there's our stair, and now when we push these into place and we pull the piston back, that stair does not count as Minecraft as a solid block, so there's no shadow, and the things that the armor stands are holding stay visible. And then we can just fill in the rest of the wall. Now these armor stands are almost complete museum display cases, except that this guy is holding our piston again. So let's put the ammonite back in his hand. This happens all the time. All you need to do is click back on the armor stand with the thing that you want it to be holding, and that should fix it. There we go. Okay, now, again, we're almost done. We just need some labels for our case. So you could go simple. I like the slate for our case because it's nice and clear and high contrast. If you have a little bit more to say, you can do my favorite trick of using the camera and the book and quill and a lectern. So there is my trilobite that I've just thrown down. I can get a picture of it, and then I can take my book and quill. I can add my picture that I have taken of my trilobite. I can add all of my cool information about trilobites. When you are finished writing your label, it is a good idea to sign it, especially if you're in a world that other people are going to be visiting. And then you can pop down a lectern, you can pop down your book and quill, and now you have an illustrated label about your trilobite. And lastly, one of the things that you might want to do is give your case a little bit of illumination. So you can use any light block. I really like the new copper bulbs. So I am going to grab a waxed copper bulb that kind of is in the same pinky tones as my wall. And I'm going to push those into place. And then to turn those on, all we need are a couple of levers. And then we have a nice illuminated case against our wall. So I said there were two ways to do this, and this was the easy way. I'm going to show you a slightly more complex way. Now this is a technique you can use if you want your case in the middle of the room. We're going to use a little bit of trickery with some commands. What we're going to do is we're going to get really close so that we are close to the armor stand. Hopefully you don't have a cow in the way. And this works if you have one or two. And we're going to open up our chat and we're going to put in /. And then you're going to add tag at E and then a square bracket, type equals armor stand, comma, R equals 2. And I will put this in the video description. Then you're going to type add, and then the name of this tag, we'll call it invis. So we're going to add the short form of invisible. So both of these are now tagged with invisible. And there is method to my madness, because now what we're going to do, we can do this for any of the armor stands in our building so that we can get everything in position the way we want it and then do this bit at the very end. So we're going to open up our command line again, put in our / effect space at E, tag equals invis. So everything with the invisible tag. Next, you're going to type in invisibility. It does pop up. You can hit tab to fill it in. It's a little bit easier. How long do we want things to be invisible? Infinite. And then you are going to put in 0 because we don't need to amplify the invisibility. Invisible is invisible. And then, do you want particles around it? No, we do not. So hide particles has to be true. So I will also put this in the video description so that you can just copy and paste it in. And there, our armor stands are invisible. Now they are still there. So if we want to put anything there, we are going to have to use our handy dandy piston method. But now we could do things like this is a case in the middle of the room, and if you don't want to have a weird depression in your floor for your armor stands to sit on, you could do things like, okay, let's make some seating. So let's get our piston again. So we're going to put those in there. And this time we're gonna have it like it's a little bench up against the display case. And then we can just push those in, boop, boop. And we have some nice seats up against the back of our display case. And last but not least, if you want to be a little creative with it, you could also use your lecterns for your labels and use those to hide where your armor stands are. And that is how we do a museum display case.